Okay, so here we are. Well, I believe to be episode 12 of Arthur's Roundtable, except it's a reboot, so it's kind of also an episode 1, Doctor Who style.
12.1? No.
Arthur's Roundtable 2.0, episode 1.
There you go. There we go.
And then the other ones will be the lost episodes. And again, Doctor Who style, people will search for them and they'll find them in a mud pit in Africa somewhere.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yes. So, for those of you who have listened to my previous episodes, I don't know which camera to look at. I'm filming now, and this will also go on YouTube. Hopefully that will get a few views. And like I said, I'm Arthur. This is my round table. If you want to argue with me on it, you have to come on the podcast to argue me face to face. I'm going to throw it out there because I've had people say, well, it's round-ish, but it's an oval.
It's an oval.
Those people just like to argue, I guess. That's all I can come up with. Anyways, my cat is about to get into something over there. Neville, say hi.
Meow.
Not even kidding. Anyways, as I like to say, I'm Arthur. This is my round table. I have a degree in media technologies, hence why I like messing with this stuff. On the round table, I'm going to discuss. Well, I'm going to sit down each week with a guest, and we will talk about whatever we want to. Hopefully, the guest will have something. If not, I'll try to bring something to the table. And I've been in the National Guard for a few years, so just so you know where the short haircut, and why I talk the way I do. This week, on January 1st, 2014, joining me, I have Kimberly.
Hello.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kimberly?
I'm from Texas. No, I don't ride a horse to school. And I teach 7th grade English and reading. And I like the color blue. And spaghetti is my favorite food.
Okay. Something I am going to carry over. Fun fact about yourself. Say hello to Neville.
This is Neville. Say hello.
Oop. Bouncing into my mic here. So.
Oh, fun fact about me?
What's the most recent book you read? Or are currently reading?
I am currently reading Allegiant, which is the final book in the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth, and I highly, highly recommend the series, especially if you liked The Hunger Games.
I have seen the trailers for those, and I have not read the books, so I don't know.
You have some reading to do.
So first off, my first problem with the trailer is it's the girl from Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Yes, Shailene
Which
Woodley.
I unfortunately can say I've seen more than one episode of. And I was never very impressed with her as an actress. So she's got a lot of ground to make up. To me, first off. And the other thing is it does feel like a ripoff of the Hunger Games. I don't know exactly how it falls as far as when the books were written, if the Hunger Games was already out and gaining popularity when Divergent came out or what. But I don't know, it just feels like such a ripoff.
Not necessarily a ripoff. I mean, it's still kind of a post-apocalyptic scenario where they're building a different society. It's completely different from the one we have now, but they're not throwing people into this large arena and killing each other, though that's what it kind of looks like in the Dauntless faction, but that's not really what they're doing. That probably made no sense to you, Dauntless and faction.
Yeah, kind of lost me. I mean, I definitely like. I mean, I catch from the trailer, the whole you have to be sorted as far as like figure out what you're good at. And that was very reminiscent of The Giver, in my opinion. The
or
book.
Harry Potter.
Or Harry Potter
sorted.
getting sorted into your house. I guess, again, I don't know much about it. So I mean, when they're sorted, I noticed they're wearing different colors. I guess, initially, I'm assuming that's where they came from as far as like their town. and then they're sorted based on what they're good at, and they go to school for that? Or I mean, would you be giving away
This
too
kind
much?
of reminds me of the BuzzFeed articles explaining something with someone who hasn't seen it. Like you're explaining Divergent and you haven't read it. It's pretty much in this world, there's 5 different factions. You have Erudite, Candor, Amity, Abnegation, and Dauntless. And they all embody specific personality traits. When these people turn 16, they get to choose. Do they stay in their faction or do they go into a new faction? And the main character, Triss, she is originally an Abnegation and she switches over to Dauntless. And that's like a big thing for you to leave your faction because they have a saying called faction before blood. And you always put your faction first. And so for you to leave your current faction and go to a new one is a pretty big deal. A lot of people just choose to stay in their original. And then once they go into their new faction, they're called initiates. And they go through initiation process of learning how the faction works, what the rules are. And you see kind of a lot of it with Dauntless because that's the one Triss goes into.
Gotcha.
And then throughout the series and through the book, just the first book, you figure out what's, going on. And you have, before you choose, because you get to choose the faction, you have a test. And that's in the trailer. You see her in the glass tank filling up with water, and she breaks it. And then the lady says, your test is inconclusive, you're divergent. This means you don't fall into a specific faction. And usually they put you through all these scenarios, and then at the end they say, well, based off your choices, we think you'd be best in abnegation or candor. And they tell you, but if you don't really fit in, then you are divergent. That's something you keep secret. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. That's that you didn't give away anything that's not already shown in the trailer, but I feel like I have a better understanding because there's I mean, and with a trailer, I mean, even when it's a trailer you're going to see in the theater, so it's like 3-ish minutes. There's only so much you can show. At the end of the day, it's you have 3 minutes to get somebody to come see your movie, basically, and of course they have an upper hand, having it based on a book. You have a lot of people who've read the book who've been waiting for this movie, so. For people like myself who haven't read the book, I had heard of it before, but having not read the book, I'm like, well, am I so? Now I will say, I'll use that though to segue. We just saw this trailer in front of the movie Saving Mr. Banks, which, for those of you who haven't heard of that, dig a hole from under that rock you're living under. Like, you need to get out more. So it's Saving Mr. Banks is about the story of how Walt Disney, played by Tom Hanks, convinces P.L. Travers, the author of Mary Poppins, to let him make the movie Mary Poppins. And excellent story. You learn more about her as a person. You really cool to see Tom Hanks play Walt Disney.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you were to put a picture of Walt Disney from the 60s next to a picture of Tom Hanks from the 60s, or Tom Hanks now, I'm sorry, close to age, only a 5-year difference. Tom Hanks is only 5 years younger than Walt was at the time. So, but if you put a picture of the two of them next to each other, no, you can't see it. Like, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then Tom Hanks you get into that movie and he shows up on screen, he starts talking, and he's like, yep, I'm sold. I'm convinced, excuse me, that is Walt Disney talking to me.
Yeah.
Excellent movie. Non-action, a little bit of comedy. Not a comedic movie. I mean, it's a drama. I don't know. I mean, I don't even feel like drama is a good word for it. They were telling a story.
Yeah.
Which is at the base what any movie is doing is telling a story. But I really just, more so than other movies, I really felt like I was getting to just peek in at the story of what happened back in 1961, and a little bit at P.L. Travers' whose actual name was what? Helen Goff?
Helen
Goff.
Goff. Yeah.
A little bit at what her life was like growing up. Um, who else? Gosh, I don't remember any of the actors' names. Well, Tom Hanks played Walt. Emma Thompson played P.L. Travers. Excellent actress.
I'm picturing Paul Giamatti plays the limo driver that takes P.L. Travers to her hotel to Walt Disney Studios, and they, over the course of all this time, they kind of form this really sweet friendship.
Gosh, is that the? I don't feel like I'm giving anything away when I say, at one point she signs a copy of her book for him, and she says, "To the only American I like."
Yes.
And that was a nice touch actually. And they had, of course, a couple of guys playing the Sherman Brothers, who,
Yes.
if you're familiar with Disney, are huge. And I mean, if you love old Disney, you should know their name. Their names are right next to Walt and Roy's, in my opinion, because of the music they composed. They composed all the music for Mary Poppins, a lot of pieces, and then of course they had, I don't even remember this guy's name, the guy that was the script writer. Honestly,
Oh yeah.
the
He was on
only
West Wing.
yeah, the actor that played him, Bradley Whitfield. Actually, I do remember that one. Yes, from West Wing. Now, me personally, I remember him from Studio 60, which only lasted for a season. Great show. Great. Highly recommend that show. He played Danny Tripp in that show. And actually, he was doing that while West Wing was wrapping up. So, a little bit of trivia. Overall, though, really good movie. Just, you felt like you're sitting back there in 1961 in that room while they're trying to come up with Mary
Yeah.
Poppins and put her on the big screen. Neville is
Making an
saying hello
appearance.
again.
Hi, Neville.
So
Get down.
in moments
Go on.
of kind of awkward silence, I decided to come up with a segment called Things That Bug Arthur. And whenever this segment comes up, I have come up with a list of various things that you might stumble across in your day-to-day life or notice every now and then, but things that I have stumbled across that bug me. First one on my list is Easter eggs that aren't Easter eggs. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of an explanation. I recently was watching various videos on YouTube about Doctor Who. I'm a Whovian. I believe you are too.
Holla.
And I came across a video is Easter eggs from the Doctor Who 50th anniversary special. Now, those of you who aren't Whovians, I apologize. But 50th anniversary back in November for Doctor Who, a BBC show, excellent show, should check it out. But this guy made two about 10-minute videos talking about all the Easter eggs he saw in the 50th anniversary. And I realized he didn't know what an Easter egg is. I was thinking of, who's it? From Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Now, to me, an Easter egg is something that is hidden. Very hidden, but is a very obvious reference to something else. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be hidden, but is not called out. Now, a great example of what you might say is an Easter egg in the 50th anniversary was the scarf on the assistant. She was wearing this scarf that the fourth Doctor wore. So this guy pointed that out. But then he said something he mentioned as an Easter egg, and I hate to delve too much into Doctor Who because I know there are people out there who don't watch it. But anyways, he was like, when Billy Piper's character in this special, Bad Wolf / Rose Tyler, talks about the sound of the TARDIS, he goes, this is an Easter egg referencing when River Song piloted the TARDIS and it didn't make the noise. And she said, and she told the doctors because he leaves his brakes on. I'm like, no, it's not a reference to that at all. I do not believe that it was a reference to River Song saying that. It was used as a plot point the sound at that point in the 50th anniversary. But see, and I've seen this before. I saw where someone made a list of Easter eggs that they saw in the Star Trek 2009 movie.
Oh, I'm gonna look up the definition of Easter egg. while you
Excellent.
talk.
That's the other thing about things that bug Arthur. I'm going to come in here completely unprepared, other than what's floating around in the old cranium up here. And so, and you know, they made a list of things, and one of it was like they mention. They said the person that made the list was like, oh well, when they said they were talking about something, they said data instead of data, and they're like, that's an Easter egg in reference to data from Star Trek Next Generation. It's like, no, I mean, that's just how that person talks. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Easter egg, like people, a lot of times people, I feel like, take something that's, you know, it's a stretch, it's a huge stretch to make that connection. They go, oh, that's an Easter egg. And I'm like, no, I disagree. An Easter egg is something that you see for a split second, go, hey, and, you know, and you can immediately make that reference. Have you found the definition?
I have, according to Google, says Easter egg is an unexpected or undocumented feature in a piece of computer software or on a DVD included as a joke or a bonus.
Okay, so it doesn't mention things being in a movie. And that's true. I mean, it does go back to there were Easter eggs in Windows 3.1. If you, yes, I said Windows 3.1. For those of us, for my listeners who are under the age of 23, all right, I think I just lost the camera. They Easter eggs are where you could find it where like maybe you click something in a certain order, and then a little animation will pop up, but you had to know the order, and it was like a complex
Yeah.
order. Okay, we had a slight pause for technical difficulties. I'm back now. It's a learning process. Excuse me. For those of you not watching this on YouTube, just listening to the audio podcast, I have two Canon DSLRs and a Logitech webcam used to film this, and I strongly suggest you check it out on YouTube. I don't know what the link will be right now, but you know, if you can, please do. Anyways, I was saying, so I remember, like I said, Easter eggs popping up in software way back when, or you know, an Easter egg on a DVD menu, yeah, or on a DVD, I should say, like where there be the hidden menu option. You know, yeah, those have been around forever, and yeah, I mean, definitely Easter eggs there. But when people are like, oh, there was a such and such in the background for 0.2 seconds, you know, and it looked kind of like this, I think it's an Easter egg. No, something that was an Easter egg that's really hard to spot in the Star Trek 2009 film, the company, that's the word I'm looking for, that was responsible for the computer graphics, or a lot of the, you know, on-screen visuals, was ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, founded by George Lucas for Star Wars way back in the day. Well, you know, being the jokesters that they are. Okay, so I was saying, ILM, being the pranksters that they are, they snuck the Millennium Falcon into the Star Trek. No, I'm sorry, not Millennium Falcon. R2-D2 into the Star
That's
Trek
right.
2009 film. You know, just real quick, I mean, you really have to know it's there to see it. So it's a little bit, to me, it's still a stretch of the term Easter egg, but you know, I'll go with it because it is there, and it is somebody kind of just, you know, for a chuckle, you know. So I think that's part of it to me, is to be an Easter egg has to be something that's for a chuckle or for those on the know.
An inside joke.
Yeah. So you said Wikipedia has a slightly longer definition?
Yeah, they do. All right. An Easter egg is an intentional inside joke, hidden message, or feature in a work such as a computer program, movie, book, or crossword. According to game designer Warren Robinett, the term was coined at Atari by personnel who were alerted to the presence of a secret message which had been hidden by Robinett in his already widely distributed game Adventure. The name has been said to evoke the idea of a traditional Easter egg hunt. And that gives a little background of it too.
I like that. Yeah, I was going to say something about the fact that it, that the name did kind of reference the whole Easter egg hunt for those that went to those.
Ooh, sorry, I keep yawning.
It's okay. It is later in the evening, so that will happen. Well, enough about Easter eggs. So, it's the first of the year. Any resolutions?
No.
No?
No.
Nothing. No.
I don't do resolutions.
It-
Resolutions are just broken.
They're broken. You assume
Most
they're
of the
broken.
time, yeah. I mean, I know. I'm not saying that people who have resolutions, it's a bad idea, but me, I'm just...
It's not something you subscribe to.
No, that's exactly right.
Well, I have kind of two. First one is to actually maintain this podcast, to do a better job of keeping up with it. When I initially started it later last year, I felt like I started strong. I say later last year. It was June, I think, of last year. I started strong, and then it just kind of petered out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was I had issues trying to get 2 or 3 people to join me each week. And so that's part of the reason I'm just doing one person. And I'm also, I know it will help me stay on top of it, having a video portion. I really enjoy editing video. You can kind of see my poster for Smarter Every Day. I've done a little bit of work for him recently. So shout out to Destin. And my other one is I'm going to try to be better about working out this year. I feel like this past year, there was a scramble later in the year and where I was like, I have a Army physical fitness test to pass.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I should probably work out. So I'm going to try to be better about that.
It's kind of a lot of resolution for people is to
yeah,
work
I mean,
out, which that's a valid one. I always say I do, but that I want to go work out and get in shape, but it after being around 107th graders all day, the last thing I want to do is go work out. But I'm one of those people. Once I if a gym I could go to, there is one on property at my apartment, so I could go there. It's if I go straight from work and I turn, say, left into the gym parking lot as opposed to, turn right, my directions mixed up again. If I turn right into the gym parking lot versus going left into my apartment, then, once I'm there and I'm going, then it's a little bit easier that way. But it's once I get there, I'm fine, but it's the getting there part that's my struggle.
Something I've done, to help me is I do the workout at home. I try to wake up and do it personally. It helps me get going for the day if I do it in the morning. And also, I say it's also a baby steps thing as far as working out. Maybe you can, if you can go once a week starting off, and get into the habit of doing that, and then maybe you'll find the time to make it twice a week, build upon that.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, we're talking about working out, but that goes for a lot of things. A lot of times you just got to take baby steps, being, any habit. What does it say? It takes 12 repetitions to make something a habit. As far as I've
heard various ones. I've heard, if you're trying to start a new habit, maybe it's a daily thing, if you do it 21 days in a row, then it helps solidify that habit. Getting up earlier in the morning just to take your time getting ready or sit down, have a cup of coffee. Doing that every day will become habit. But I don't know.
Well,
Just
yeah, I
where
mean,
I'm at.
definitely, you definitely, like, nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to have this habit starting today. Excuse me. And it become a habit.
Yeah.
You have to consciously think about it and do it. Get out, whether it's like get out and do it or wake up and do it. And, you really have to make yourself do it. There's the point, but eventually you get to a point it is easier. Working out is different as opposed to, let's say, putting your shoes like like you want to, instead of having your shoes drawn across the house, you want to keep your shoes in a nice line, neat somewhere. Maybe you have a shoe rack next to the door or something. Like, that's a little bit easier to get into a habit of doing as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to waking up and working out. But it's like, I mean, you can wake up and like you'll be like, oh, why do I have this energy? Because my body thinks it's going to work out now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to go. And just in general, waking up early. Um, I mean, I know as a teacher, you you have to wake up at a ridiculously early hour
Well, I
to.
wake up. I wake up about 6, and then I try to get to school by
Okay, not a ridiculously early hour, but an
7 or
early hour.
7:15, and then my school ends a little bit before 4 o'clock, and I'm there till like 5. Some nights it's later.
Yeah, I've
Usually depends.
the good teachers stay after the bell rings. This is the best way I can think of it. Like, I've known a lot of teachers. I met them through a variety of ways. I've for some reason tend to make friends with teachers a lot, and I've noticed, yeah, the good ones are the ones. Well, first off, they're the ones that care.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
absolutely.
one of the ways you can tell that a teacher cares is they stay late. Final bell rings, all the kids go home, you know, and say the kids are gone by. What time are your kids gone by? Did you say 4? No, 3.
School gets out at 3:50, and then there's a bell that rings at 4:05 just to say if you're in the hallway, then you need to either get out of the building and get where you're supposed to go, or you need to be in a classroom where you're going to have tutorials or your after school meeting or something.
And I'm sure, in your contract with the school system, like you're required to be there from until a certain time, right?
Yeah, it's an 8-hour thing, I believe. Mine is 8 to 4. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's what it is, but I mean, I certainly there are some days, of course, when as soon as my room is straightened up at the end of the day, I am out of there. But a lot of times, I'm there. My students know I'm there, and
Yeah. My point being is like there are some teachers who every single day, I mean, as soon as it hits the time that they have to stay until, so say 4, as soon as it hits 4, see them walking down the hallway headed toward their car, or headed toward the exits, headed toward their car. And those are the teachers who consistently put up very mediocre numbers as far as their kids' test scores. And
uh,
if that, if that, depending on the school, um, a lower, shoot, I can't think of the word, you know, where,
income.
yeah, lower income area of, my cat says hello.
I was gonna get his paw, make him wave.
And we're in a lower income area. Like, if the teacher's not trying, you're gonna get bad scores. But you're going to, like, if the teacher tries even a little bit, scores can vastly improve over the course of the school year. Higher income area, you're going to start off with decent scores, but the teacher's definitely not going to show improvements with their students if they're not trying. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, and just for any job, you should try, in my opinion. If you're getting paid to be there, like, you should show your boss, that you're earning every penny of your pay. And teaching, To me, teachers are a vastly underpaid group in America,
Absolutely.
and underappreciated. And I know there's tons of people that are out there that would say, oh yeah, that would agree with me. And it's, but what are we doing to change that? And I know here in Tennessee, like they've had various pieces of legislation pass that have been geared to improve test scores, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the teachers have to show so much improvement with their students, and it doesn't matter if they have tenure or not. I mean, all kinds of stuff that would allow them to just eliminate a teacher. And I understand where they're coming from there. Like they're trying to push the teachers, but it's also unfair to the teachers. Um, Without getting into details of it, I don't know the details of this legislation. I I just know that it's tough for teachers. I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So
it
cheers
is.
to you.
It is because sometimes, I mean, depending on where you are, your students have low test scores. It's all on the teacher. When, yes, part of it could be on the teacher. They could have tried harder, but at the same time, if your students aren't putting in the effort, then, there's only so far a teacher can go, and that student needs to, they have to meet them halfway. And it's difficult when you get scores back and you see, oh my gosh, these kids didn't do well, but you know those students, you say, well, they could have tried so much, tried a whole lot more. And so I hope one day it's that, state test scores, those aren't the sole indicator of a student's progress, of how they're doing, how they've been doing across.
Standardized tests are flawed.
Absolutely they are.
I mean, they can assess to an extent, but not 100% assessment.
Mm-mm.
That being said, it's about time to wrap up. We've discussed movies, Easter eggs, but not the chocolate kind, and teachers
Resolutions,
and resolutions.
baby steps.
Yep, taking baby steps. So, here's to taking baby steps. Thank you for joining me on this New Year's Day 2014, Kimberly.
Thank
And-
you for having me, Arthur.
And please subscribe, whether it's to my YouTube channel or on iTunes. Not you, well, you too, Kimberly, but to my listeners/viewers.
I'm already subscribed. I'm not subscribed to your YouTube, and I'm subscribed to podcasts.
Oh, there we go. So, to my listeners, please subscribe and feedback. I'd love it. At Arthur@scottprod.net. ARTHUR at scottprod SCOTTPROD.net. If you can't spell net, get an education. Come back to me then.
It rhymes with get.
So, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.